Hi, I'm Underhiver, and I love kit bashing. I love spending hours and hours and adding dozens of kits to make a single model, to make it unique, and for that mini to tell a story. Something that's possibly lacking in my work are bases. Now, bases are a nice way to suggest a setting, a location, just to really embed them into whatever universe it is that they're from. So today, I've got a really simple one for you. It's a technique I've developed for making scale appropriate barbed wire to go on your bases, your miniatures, and your terrain. Now, Necromunda is set in 40k, which is the 41st millennium, and it's a time of eternal war. Pretty much everywhere in the galaxy is being touched by it, so I figured barbed wire would be pretty ubiquitous. I've come up with a method of using really easy to get hold of items to make some pretty effective, in my opinion, barbed wire. So why don't we have a look?
Okay, so this is the mini that I'm going to use to illustrate the barbed wire effect. This is Override. She's the Arachnorig pilot for my Van Sar gang in her custom war rig. So she's had blades fitted to the spider-like appendages. So it's got no utilitarian use whatsoever now. It's not an industrial servo rig. It's purely for combat. Okay, so we're outside. And the reason we're outside with this lovely pipe cleaner, a pipe cleaner, just something that any kid's craft box will have, or hipster pipe smokers, is because we're going to burn the nylon fluff from the outside of it. So I'm holding it with a pair of clippers so that I don't burn my hand, because obviously the wire is going to get very hot, and then we just burn that away. The reason we're outside is because it's nylon and it has noxious fumes, and that stuff could drip on you and set fire to your carpet or your pets or anything else. And we're left with a basic twisted wire. Now already it's got that kind of barbed wire-ish effect, and you can just twist it as I've done here, and that will make a fairly suitable barbed wire proxy. I'm just going to snip that off at the end, and then I'll show you against Override there, and already with a bit of paint that would pass fairly well, but I'd like to take that a little step further. Okay, so we've got our wire, and then this is 5 amp fuse wire. You can get this from any kind of cheap shop, hardware store. It's extremely easy to get hold of and extremely inexpensive. Okay, so you're going to wrap that fuse wire at a right angle. You're leaving about a centimetre for you to nip, maybe a little bit less, and wrap it 4 or 5 times. I'd go 5, I think I've gone on most of mine, around the wire itself. Now, it may not have wrapped together very tight, so you might push it like you are here with my nail together. Don't worry about whereabouts it is on the wire at the moment, because you will be able to move that around. It's a little bit fiddly, but it does leave a nice kind of scale appropriate barb effect, I find. I will show you a little better. I realise that that's terrible focus at the moment. I am getting the hang of that, but not at any speed. Okay, so you'll be left, once you've cut that away, with 2 fairly long prongs, and you're just going to go in and cut that according to the size that you want them. Remember to kind of take it away a little bit at a time, because you can't put it back on once you've done it. I have seen this technique done with thicker wire, and they leave a loop between so that they can space the wire out, but I find that you're just losing a lot of wire that way, and I'm a bit of a skinflint. And here we are with all of the barbed wire prongs on. I will show you a closer image so you can see how they look once they're all trimmed down, and there you are. We have a nice barbed wire effect around the main twisted wire from the pipe cleaner, and we get that lovely barbed prong effect there. And once you're happy with the spacing and you've got the prongs facing out at opposite angles to give that nice vicious look, then we're just going to add some glue and pin them in, hold them into place, so that when you come to either use this on top of a fence or a bit of terrain, or you're going to wrap it, they'll just stay where you want them to be. And it's up to you kind of how close, how far away you want them. And it's literally just a little bit of super glue dripped into the wire, and that'll hold it in place. definitely use liquid as opposed to gel, because gel's just going to be too obvious and clumpy. Liquid will just soak right in and pin it to exactly where you want it to be. Okay, so there we are. I've glued all of the wire at intervals that I'm happy with, and now I'm just using the end of a shaping tool. Like, you could use a paintbrush or anything you like, depending on the size of the loops that you want, and I'm just wrapping that around. And because the pipe cleaners are made to be bent into shape, they'll hold that shape really nicely. If I was doing this at a smaller scale on a miniature, I'll see if I've got an image I can throw up for you. I would probably twist my own wire from the 5 amp fuse wire, but if you put that on a base or a bit of terrain and it gets knocked, it's just going to deform really, really easily. Don't worry about those prongs. The 5 amp fuse wire is really soft, so it'll just move out of your way. It does mean that you might have to kind of manipulate and shape them back into place, but once it's on the miniature, that's unlikely to get knocked. And yeah, you can basically shape it into whatever form you want from there. So I'm fairly happy with the overall effect. And once you're happy, it's pretty much good to paint, whether that's on the miniature or separately, depending on the project. The miniature that this is actually going on to, it'll be put on before the miniature's primed, and then I'll prime it together, because that's the only way I'll be able to make it work. So just plan that out ahead before you get started.
Right, so hopefully somebody found that useful, and if you do try it out on your miniatures or terrain, then please let me know by tagging me on Instagram. If you've got a better way of doing it, I'd love to hear it below. My next project, which I'm using this barbed wire for, is for the I'll see you in the underhive.